We'll call the meeting to order. I believe we have a quorum. Everybody's here except for Brad. Chris, you please take note that Brad's not here. We'll have some fun with him on that one. Does anybody have a conflict of interest declaration that they would like to make? No? Okay. You've all had a chance to look through the agenda. If there are no questions or comments about the agenda, if I can have someone move that be approved as presented. Okay, Jim, thank you.
I'll second it.
John, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes of the board meeting from March 21st. You've all had a chance to review those. There are no comments or questions on those. Could I have someone move that those minutes be adopted as presented? Danny, thank you. Seconder. Sardi, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Thank you. Dylan, I'm not going to keep you to 10 or 5 minutes, but
no worries.
We have a fairly lengthy agenda in front of us, so I'm going to try and limit everybody to 5 minutes or so. And so before we go any further, we'll turn it over to the presentation from Pete, Saunders, and Doyle. And
Perfect. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I assume you can hear me all well enough through the screen here, so that's great. So I'll do what we've done in years past, where that I'll give a brief overview of the audit or audit results, essentially, and then our independent auditor's report, and then I'll turn it over to Mark, and he can go through the actual financial statements, in detail where they are his. But there are a few kind of key items that have happened over this year's audit, so I'm going to speak on those at least. So what I'll do is I'll start out with the document called Communication of Audit Results that I believe was handed around in your distribution package. And what this document is, it's a kind of a highlights of all the different areas that we are required to note to those individuals with those charts of governance for any organization we're performing an audit for. So for the most part, it's kind of a hit list of different items here that we'll bring up. For the most part as well, it's kind of a pretty vanilla document unless there's something going on, whether it's being issues or findings that are substantial to the audit. So what I'll do is I'll just go through each of them and kind of highlight, our findings and what we have to say for each of those. So starting on the first page, you'll see status of the audit. So our audit and our audit procedures are complete at this point. Really, all we're looking for now is an approval of the draft financial statements, as well as a receipt of the signed management representation letter. Those two final items that are always done at this stage of the audit. So don't expect there to be any changes to financial statements or anything like that. And then it just details our responsibility as auditors. So obviously there are certain standards and requirements that we are to operate or perform our engagement under. So that's just going through the details there of both the accounting standards for the organization, the public sector accounting standards, as well as our generally accepted auditing standards, which is essentially the guidelines we audit by. So it just details there what's as part of our audit and how we go about that. And then starting on the next page, you'll see kind of these different areas, starting with independence. Of course, as being an auditor, a large requirement is us being independent of any organization and the folks and individuals involved in it. So this is where we would note if there were any sorts of breaches or areas of concern. Obviously, there's nothing that's come to our attention with regards to independence that we need to bring to your attention. On the internal control side, as part of any audit, we're not offering an opinion on the internal control environment at all. But what we have to do is gain an understanding of that environment in order to develop our procedures, design our testing and build out our risk assessment profile for any engagement. So in doing so, when we running through controls environments or process flows for different sets of transactions, if there's anything we note that's an area of weakness or an area where we think, hey, have you thought about this, areas to improve on, we'll bring those to the management's attention by way of a management representation letter, or a management rep letter, I should say. And that item, there is one coming again this year. They're the same two items that were there last year. So what it is, these items would never affect the auditor's report or opinion whatsoever. They're more just, merely suggestions. if you don't want to act on any of them, that's completely fine. It's not going to change your audit by any means. And this is obviously a very common practice with a lot of audits. On the next page, you'll find two sections here: fraud and illegal acts, as well as legal and regulatory issues. This is where we would note if we uncovered or identified any such items. Obviously, nothing that's come to our attention throughout the audit and audit procedures, so nothing to note there. Disclose. Summary of misstatements. At the conclusion of our audit, there's no unadjusted misstatements. There was two small, minor adjustments, more so just classification issues actually, that we corrected or adjusted and are reflected in the financial statements. So nothing by way of uncorrected misstatements that need to be reported today. Disclosure matters again. Obviously Mark spends a great deal of time on his financial statements, and they're in great shape. So there's nothing by way of disclosures that we see as being a deficiency for the audit. And then we come to significant new auditing policies, which I'm not sure if you're all aware, but there was a huge change with regards to public sector over this past year that are reflected in the financial statements. So we note there that the asset retirement obligations. So this is a new standard, not completely new in the grand scheme of things to the the solid waste industry, I should say, because there was kind of the subsection in years before called post-closure, liability. So that old statement or that old standard is now being wrapped up and kind of under this new one. Things have changed within for sure, and now is under this asset retirement obligation. So what's happened is that this new standard is not just limited to post-closure, the liability and the post-closure activities. It's bringing in a lot of other, I'll say, assets or obligations into the fray when setting up this liability each year. So it's bringing in other things, where that, if you have asbestos in certain buildings or areas, now you have to set up a liability for it. If you have oil and fuel tanks, obviously there's a legal obligation there to remedy the area or put it back to its natural state prior to this. So what happens is now any public sector organization has to inventory all of their assets and all of their activities to identify if there's any legal obligations for them to settle certain, whether, like I said, assets or areas. So Mark has went through, obviously, and I'm sure with the helps of, other individuals within the organization, and identified all of these different areas, whether it's, final capping, the gas, the flares, deconstructing buildings and such, and determine that, okay, here's the total liability that we're estimating those costs to be, and recording it on the book. So you'll see in the financial statements when you're looking at, your liability section, is that the post-closure liability is now a zero balance for the current year, and you've got this new ARO balance that's being presented. Obviously, a much larger balance just because of the scope of things being brought in with this new standard and this change. So that's the one really large change that you're going to see and notice in the financial statements. And the approach to this change too that Mark has taken in the financial statements is what's called a modified retrospective application. So essentially going back to the beginning of the current fiscal year that we audited and incorporating those changes. So you don't have that comparative that lines up, but going forward, this asset retirement obligation will be the new liability into 2024. So obviously a significant change, but Mark's notes and disclosures and policy changes, they're well detailed to kind of describe the nuts and bolts of the change and that new liability that's set up for fiscal 2023. So that kind of covers significant accounting policies. You could probably say that's a significant transaction in a sense too. It's not really a transaction because it's not money out the door today. It's essentially setting up a liability for future costs is what's happening. When you look at the sensitive, accounting estimates, again, this, previously post-closure liability, now ARO definitely falls into that area too, but obviously I won't go through it again. And then the last couple points here, you've got the cooperation during the audit. Obviously, we receive full cooperation as we always do. This audit typically runs pretty smooth, and it did again for fiscal 2023. So kudos to all of the staff and people that help us out, with any of the requests we might have throughout. And then consultations with other accountants. Other than, Mark obviously being a third party or external party, no other consultations that we're aware of throughout the year. So that's a highlight of our audit results. The next document I'd like to go through is just in the financial statements. It's the independent auditor's report. This is our conclusion or our statement over the financial statements. And then I'll move it. I'll pass it over to Mark to discuss, or maybe I know he's got a section later on in the agenda to go over the financial results. But our independent auditor's result, as I mentioned, is our stamp, our final summary of the financial statements. The main paragraphs here is that opinion paragraph. And within the opinion paragraph, you'll see the second one there, where that we state, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects. So what we're saying here is that it's a clean audit report. There's no reservations or modifications to our audit opinion. So again, everything that we found in the audit was clean or, in material, obviously taking the materiality, presented fairly, as we see it. Within the independent auditor's report, you'll find the basis of opinion, just a kind of quick summary of, how we base that opinion. And then it details the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance, which of course would be the responsibilities of the board and management as part of the audit, what the responsibility is. And then of course our responsibilities. So there's detailed there in the various bullets of what our responsibilities are in conducting an audit over any organization. What I will say is these paragraphs, all of them are standard wording. There's been no changes or modifications to any of them, no additions or omissions at all. So that's kind of what I have for you today. Obviously short and sweet, but are there any questions, I guess, that are, from the table here as far as, our audit, our practice, what we've done from our standpoint?
Questions, comments? No, I'm pretty quiet here.
Too easy then. So what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Mark, and I'm not sure, like I said, I know it's later on in the agenda, if you wanted to go through the statements now or wait until the point later on in the agenda. So I'll leave it up to you guys.
You're going to be staying for that time, Dylan?
I can, unless you want to go. I mean, it's really up to you. I can stay for as long as you want.
Well, we're gonna try and do it so that you could get away without listening to the rest of the meeting.
Fair enough, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, so if you guys want to go through that now, Mark, the two of you, we can go through it now.
Sure, that's fine with me. I just want to elaborate a couple things on the difference between the post-closure and closure fund and asset retirement obligations. So the old standard for closure and post-closure only accounted for costs at closure and subsequent to closure to take care of the assets that are there, which would only have been the cells themselves. Wouldn't have included buildings or C&D site, anything like that. The new standard, what it says, when you build an asset, you're responsible to take care of it at the end of its service life. So now when we do this, we say we have a building. Well, at the end of its life, we're going to need to tear it down because it'll be a derelict building. So we'll tear it down, take it to the C&D site and dispose of it. For the cells themselves, when we fill a cell, we're going to have to do the final capping on it, install the gas wells, and those were things during the life of the landfill, not at closure. So this captures those extra costs, but they're not all expensed in 1 year. So just for instance, let's say capping costs were $2 million. Well, if those extra costs, to the extent they're not already expensed off, they're amortized and expensed to the income statement over the life of the cell. So for instance, for us, we're able to go higher on our cells than what we have for current elevation. So those cells still have life. And let's say, for instance, maybe like a cell, one of the ones we've got filled, for instance, it would still have life above the current level it's at. So we would defer those costs related to the capping in proportion to the cell tonnage that's still available. So it's prorated over the life of the asset. Now, so I guess here at January 1st, 2023, we reversed the previous closure liability and we set up a new asset retirement obligation. So as Dylan said, that asset retirement obligation is a lot larger because it encompassed all those things from today till the day the site closes, plus all those costs after we close. So you end up with a bigger number. And at that same time, we added extra costs to our capital assets. So if it cost us $2 million to build a cell, maybe the capping, the gas wells, all that stuff adds another $2 million to it. So now instead of expensing off a portion of those costs every year's amortization on just the original cell, it's those additional costs are being amortized as well. I know this stuff's confusing and it's new for everybody, especially the accountants and the auditors. So that's the main summary there. As far as comparative numbers go, this is our first year with the 12 months of the new services because we started them in 2022. So all the comparative numbers for 2022 are a lot lower, so they're really not very comparative. And for solid waste, the big hit there was our loss of our major customer, and that's about 8,000 metric tons a year we lost. So that will extend the life of our cells in the future. So I think we got an extra 6 or 7 years of landfill life based on the current footprint. So if you wanted to look at the notes probably on your own time, notes 2 are the changes to the opening balances from the accounting policy. And note 11 is talking about the asset retirement obligation. So out of this, the takeaway would be our closure liability was fully funded before, and it's still fully funded. So the net amount of the change to our accumulated surplus by making these changes at January 1st, 2023 was, I think it was $12,000, maybe $16,000. It wasn't very much. And so we look at our statement of operations. We ended the year with an $806,000 loss. That's on page 3. So that's our annual operating deficit. And the main thing on that would be that we amortize off a lot of our previous capital assets, and it shows as an expense, but they're already fully paid off, so we don't have any matching revenue. Kind of living off our past profits. And note 16 is our second previous year surplus numbers that we carry forward. So the ones for 2023, most of them are pretty small. We already transferred money to the reserves at the end of the year to eliminate those extra surpluses that we hadn't spent. So we'll either spend them in 2024 or it'll be used to reduce the 2025 budget. And
you say note 16 on that, Mark?
Note 15.
Note 15, okay.
15, yeah.
I was looking at 16, that's employee future benefits.
Yeah. Well, that's good, Ken. I know somebody listened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a tourism promotion fund has a $26,000 deficit. So there was an extra bill that came in at the end of the year that we didn't expect. So motions were done way before year end. Just do the best you can. And I think that's probably about it. The note on the reserve funds is on page 27, which would be note 22. So it breaks down what we have for money that's set aside in separate little pockets for each service. And during the year, we transferred $290,000 to reserves at the end of the year. And during the year, we took 40,000 out of the solid waste capital reserve. That was for the fire truck. I think that's the highlights of the financial statements.
Okay, I'm just gonna take you back to the, when we talk about the new closure, I'm gonna get the terminology mixed up here, but for the closure fund, that modification that's being done there, you mentioned the number of about, I wanna say it was around $12,000. You started talking about buildings, remediation on buildings, remediation on potential oil and hydrocarbon spills, those kinds of things that have occurred here or may occur in the future. Is that the 12,000 the total that we would be anticipating for all those other structures in the retirement?
No, what that $12,000 adjustment, that was the difference between what the estimated closure and post-closure liability was and what the asset retirement obligation net calculation worked out to. Because as we record the liability for the asset retirement obligation, we're also increasing our capital asset values.
Right.
It affects more than one account at the same time. So when we do our estimate, we say the asset retirement obligation at the end of December 2023 is now $6,448,000. Now that number isn't what the actual cost will be because we have no idea. It's just an estimate. And so the way we figure it out is we take the current costs that we estimate to do all these, like let's say capping, gas wells, the flare, treating the leachate. So we take our current dollars for that we estimate will be in the future for cost, and we increase them by 2% or 2.5% this year for inflation. We did use 2% before, but we upped it by 0.5% because of the current inflation. Anyway, so what we do is we increase all those costs to the year that they're going to be spent. So let's say as capping is a good example. We may cap, well, now we're kind of working down the way. So we won't do much for permanent capping except for the ends, like the top and the bottoms of the strip of cells until we get to the final end. And then we'll go up the slope. So we have to estimate what years we're going to do the capping. So then we take, and based on our rate of return in our closure fund, then we roll those numbers back at that 4.5% to say, here's our net present value of the liability. Because we've already got $2 million set aside in the closure fund. I know I'm maybe not explaining it well. It's a really complicated.
Well, that's coming through loud and clear. There's going to be a complicated formula as to how that. But as we move through it, we'll gain a clearer insight, I'm sure, into what that's going to run us. Anybody else have any costs or questions or comments? Okay. So I guess that's John. Did you have something?
No, we're not having a test after this.
No, there's no test. There's no test. Okay. Well, unless there's something else that you want to give us right now, Dylan, thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes, I appreciate it. And if there's any other questions come out of the rest of the meeting, feel free to reach out to me through Hollis, Mark, Claudette. They all know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, right on.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay. The next item is under new business is Horizon CNHA update, and that's Heather.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm starting my timer because you all know I can talk, and I heard the 5-minute rule, so I'll do my best. So thanks everyone for providing some time for a quick update. So those of you who are familiar, The CHNA is Horizon's Community Health Needs Assessment. That is a standard process that we use to gather information from the community around what's important to them for their health and well-being. And the vast majority of a person's health and well-being rests with the social determinants of health. So for those of you who know me, that's why I tend to work in things like housing and food security and transportation and employment, because those all go together to have the largest impact on a person's health and well-being. So with the Community Health Needs Assessment, for those of you who remember, when we originally started this process, it was going to be the Community Health Needs Assessment for Western Charlotte County, because that is typically how they've been done in our region. And the community members around the table said, we think it makes more sense to look at our region as all of Southwest New Brunswick. So what we did is we consulted with some community members in Eastern Charlotte and Macadam to see if they wanted to be included and if they felt that made sense to them, which everyone said that they did. So we revised the plan and we essentially did 2 CHNAs in one swoop. But from an operational perspective, I think moving forward, it makes a lot of sense because we do try to work as a region here. So that was it. That was a good thing. We are at the stage now where we have initial findings from the consultations. So the community members that led the process, so we take direction from community. So those community members around the table felt it was important to learn from 16 individual populations in our region. And I think you received kind of a one-page summary document. So they're all listed there, but it's people who live in rural communities, adults whose healthcare needs are changing, young adults who are trying to get established, newcomers, both from within Canada, but as well from outside of Canada. And we actually made a strategic effort to engage with those populations of focus to learn the most from them that we could. For everyone else, because it's important to learn from everyone else as well, we did provide an online survey that community members could participate in and basically respond to the same questions through that online process. But we're really trying to focus on predominantly the populations that experience inequities in their health. So that's why we focused on the 16 populations of health. Thank you. Some of you around the table actually either attended or participated or helped provide some guidance throughout the process. So appreciate that. We get to know a lot of people in the region that we didn't know, which is wonderful as well. So we've got some of those relationships moving forward. At a very high level, because we're just finishing off the reporting process now, there are 8 key themes that are emerging. And for a lot of us, I don't think it's new, but they've been revalidated, or the community has told us that it's still important. So transportation continues to be there, access to health services, safe, affordable housing, developing the social safety net. That was the first time that had been articulated in our region as something. So we'll do a little more work around that. Accessing mental health and addiction supports, food security, focusing on the increasing need of health services and staffing levels. And then communications also came up, and that's the first time that's really been articulated as well in our region. So the spot that we're at now is that we do have a draft report that internally we're reviewing to make sure it represents what we think we heard. It'll then go to our community learning committee the 1st of June, and assuming that they review the report and they have no concerns or issues with it, it can then be used as a working document while we translate it and put it into a proper report format. But that typically takes a couple of months, and we don't want to wait that long. We want to be able to start using the information as soon as possible. So at this point, I'm anticipating that we would actually have a usable document early June, mid-June at the latest. I would also like to thank Ray, because he was very helpful in helping coordinate and facilitating some of the sessions that we had as well. So that was great. But we did receive input from every community in the region, which was very good. And we had a good diversity. We had seniors and we had kids in high school too, which is always nice to get kind of both those ends of the spectrum. But that's my 5 minutes. Coincidentally, that was all I really wanted to provide, but that's just a very high level update. We will be getting summary documents for each of those 16 populations. And then from there, we'll work with other government departments, community members, nonprofits to look at what is currently being done to address the need that was identified, so that we're not duplicating work. Sometimes there's great work already being done, but people just aren't aware of it. And then for those areas that need further work, we'll work at structuring committees to move some of those action items forward. And ideally that work will be led with the voices of people who are having those experiences at the table.
Well, Heather, thank you very much. Is there any comments, questions? Heather, you've set the bar very high. Thank you very much for that. And you have a good evening. And I don't know whether you want to hang around for the rest of the meeting or not, but
I don't know. That auditor's report was really exciting. I missed those.
I know Mark gets excited about that stuff too.
Yes. Thanks so much for your time, everybody.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Heather.
Bye.
Okay. Next item, Community Promotion Fund update, and that's Charlene.
Yeah. So, just for those that aren't aware, the Community Promotional Fund Program is a grant program provided by the Department of Health to all of the RSCs. The purpose of it is to support the attraction of healthcare workers in identified areas of need, which is most areas in the healthcare field right now. That said, we are not responsible for the actual attraction, recruitment, retention piece. We're the supporting piece. So the main activities within the fund are promoting the region. That's number one. So under that right now, I'll give you a couple of updates. So we had last year, was year one, there was a fund of $100,000 that was given to us. We hadn't started the work done. None of the RSCs had, maybe one or two had started. So they rolled those funds over this year, and we have until the end of our fiscal to use them now, which is great. We're also getting an additional 50,000 right away. So we have 150,000 used this year. I'm working with Sherry actually on one piece of it to develop promotional videos and content, to put a video together. I don't know if you've seen Envision's new one. Envision St. John just came up with their new recruitment video for healthcare workers. It's really well done. We envision ours to be very similar. Obviously we don't have the same kind of healthcare resources as they do to use, but we'll figure out how we kind of show that side of things, more in a setting of a local family doctor and some of the services we have available in St. Dean, for example. But it's mostly promoting the region itself to the people that we want to come work here and their families. So that's why we're going to duplicate efforts with tourism as well as other workforce development promotion, and use the content for various things. So we get more bang for a buck that way. So we're working with an agency now to start putting that together. Obviously, we're gonna wait till there are some leaves in the trees, so we're gonna wait until probably June before we start doing the content development for that. So by the end of the year, we'll have a video for the healthcare piece of it. The other side of it is we are to build a team with Horizon. That hasn't been as easy as it should be, so we're still working through that. Hopefully we'll have it together soon. But they need to kind of tell us exactly where they're going for recruitment and what we need to put together for them to assist in people coming to work in Southwest New Brunswick. There's lots of things we can do around that. We can pay, as a fund, we can pay for things like visits. If we have people in mind that want to come to the region to visit, we can pay for that into the fund. We can pay for swag for them to take to recruitment shows, fairs. There's also a show at the medical school in St. John in the fall. I've already been in touch with Envision St. John on that. We're going to piggyback on because they're already there. So we're going to take our content and try to lure some people down as well. So there's various things happening there, but that's what the fund is intended for. And we're like I said, we're starting that now. We have a couple of developments happening with getting content put together. That's the main thing I want to provide. A couple of other things. So one thing that came up this week was there's a student doctor that's looking for housing in St. Andrews, for example, and it's for short-term placement. So one of the things we can do is to lure more students down to do placements is to find short-term housing to have available, right? So that's something that we can do proactively. I'm working with Brad to try to find a place for the student for the summer, but those things aren't easy, as we know, housing especially, but if it's just short-term for 3 months at a time, that's a great win for us to say, look, we have housing available for these students, we can put them up here, and then we can, you know, hopefully get them to stay after the placement. So that's one of the things we can look at. That's not a high cost as well. On top of the video content and any social media content, there are also sell sheets that we put together. It kind of gives an overview of what the region offers, what it looks like, what the population, just all the demographics and whatnot. So it's all the sales things. It's sales pitches basically in different formats to provide to Horizon and Department of Health for their recruitment efforts.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
I reached out looking for an update because I knew that this fund was out there. Because we are working on a partnership with Horizon right now for Dr. Housing. It's long term because it's a huge issue for us. And knowing that that fund was there, and knowing that housing was part of it, I just wondered how, if there had been any conversation about how those funds would be split out. So, like, I think it's great if we can do something for St. Andrews, but how can we do something
for the island as well? And part of the challenge is, of course, the cost of building on Birmingham, because it's incrementally higher there. We've got an outline of a plan. It's starting to come together. We've got Horizon, we've got some other people involved as well. But it's something that I'd like to talk about, is how can we tap into that and what opportunities are there? Because if we can find little pots of money here and there, I think it makes our life that much easier to try to get something going.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And part of that as well is for locums to cover off like ER shifts and stuff like that as well. So it's really like a multifaceted type of approach that we're looking at.
Yeah, and again, it's some of those things too. It's like they're really prohibiting us from spending it on certain aspects. So even on the housing piece, we're not spending any money in St. Andrews. It was just, there was already a student who was looking to come. So we're just trying to see where we can find it. So what I was saying about the housing for students is, if we had pre-identified short-term housing, whether that's, you know, with, you know, in somebody's home and somebody's, you know, basement apartment or something that they have available, like that's the type of thing I was speaking about, but there's no cost to that. So I don't know what we can provide on the housing front, but I think we should definitely have that conversation. So I'm in touch with various people in the Department of Health and Horizon, trying to get this team together. So once I have it together, which is hopefully very soon, I reached it again today with 2 different people. I'm just gonna hound them until somebody gets back.
In case they don't mention, I'd like to flag, I think it would be good if we had the hospital manager from Graham and Ann as part of that team.
Okay.
Just because the needs are so different on the island versus.
I agree. Yep.
There was a committee that was together last year. I was part of that committee, but it hasn't met now for quite a while. But its goal was to attract new medical folks. There might be some people that are on that committee that you might be able to fold over into your group. Yeah, I'll give you their names.
Send me the membership. Yeah.
I'll give you their names a little later.
Sounds good.
Al probably knows them all as well. Okay. Committee schedule is the next one, and that's all.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Mr. Chair. We've been
Discussing
this, well, we discussed this at committee of the whole, and I took it back to
our staff
members and what this might look like, because
typically
there's a
separate
staff member assigned to each committee.
And
so
what will go
with, and this also goes to what will go in the bylaws, which I'm going to bring forward as an amendment to the bylaws,
as long
as you agree to what
I say
I say here.
So
the minimum would be 4 times a year, and we were talking May, September, correct me if I'm wrong, May, September, December, February? March.
Okay.
Because
those
seem to fit in with the kind of the goalposts of where we need to be at a service commission. Another point that I would add to the bylaws would be the committee chairs can call for additional meetings if they need it. So we're working on something fairly intense or specific that doesn't limit them to 4 meetings a year.
Staff
can make meeting requests of the chair, but the chair has to actually call the meeting, because that's typically how it works in the past. And subcommittees do not need elected representation or board members necessarily. Doesn't preclude that, but as we said before, we're looking for subject matter experts.
And the committees
that I'm talking about, so the subcommittees,
which are different
than some standing committees, would be the tourism, recreation, economic development,
community
community
development,
development, transportation, and landfill.
Our
Our
standing
standing committees
are different.
are different because our standing committees have predefined
terms and
terms and
conditions.
conditions. So the committee of the whole is all of the board as a committee. Then there's a public safety committee which has its own mandate. That was dictated by the province.
And then
CRAC is the committee of the board, but CRAC has its own set of bylaws and its own autonomy, actually. And that authority has been delegated to that committee to make those decisions as they need to.
I don't think
any of that should change.
So
my proposed was May, September, December, March as a minimum for each standing committee. The chair may make modifications to those things, but or may call for extra meetings. I think that was the
Right.
means next month there'll be a bunch of committee meetings.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any question, comment?
I think Brad had mentioned this before, like, once the committees are scheduled, will you circulate the list so that we have that?
Absolutely.
Good point. Okay, thank you. Okay. Committee appointments.
Oh, yes.
So I've got two. First one is for CRAC. And so I'm going to need a motion from the board on this, and the motion will be to appoint George Wheeler Wolf III to CRAC.
See if they look good.
Yeah.
See if okay.
I had to get his name. I'll second that.
I wonder who the heck it was.
Okay, all those in favor of George? Motion's on the table. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
And I also have a nomination from Bonnie for, so for the tourism committee, I had Kara Greenlaw.
Yeah.
And
there was a question around another person.
Yeah, Jennifer Neal was with the Grand Man on tourism, but we wanted to make sure that we had someone from council that was sitting on that committee if we could, so.
Just Kara?
Just Kara.
Okay, so we have a motion for Kara Greenlaw to be on the tourism committee.
Okay, a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Danny seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.
that's all I have.
That's all I have for now,
But that doesn't
preclude nominations to committees at any meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So recall, we have the
Hmm?
we have the economic development updated list.
I may have missed.
Yes, sir.
What's that, an update on the list?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I have an updated list of the committee members for the update.
You have an update.
You have an updated list, but we're not nominating anybody new.
Yes.
Oh.
Some confusion then.
Okay, not worry. We'll handle it at the next meeting. Yeah. Okay, Max Flex. Okay, community and staff reports, community development, and that's you, Ray. All right.
So hopefully some of you noticed we've got someone new in the room. Nick Curtis has joined us, so we got a chance to connect with him. If not today, then in the future. So a couple things that I'm going to highlight today. Primarily, it's just an update on the community grant writer, Nick. And then just an update on the Overcoming Poverty Together process.
You might have to go closer. Yeah.
Maybe. Next slide, please. Sure. I'll send you. There's. Yeah. Okay. So just a little update on what Nick and I have been up to with the grant writing to date. So February, March. Primarily, I mean, Nick just got onboarded. Been meeting with RSC regional leads to get to speed on what they're working on, connecting with regional funders like Fund Community Foundation, United Way, as well as other funders like CBDC and those folks. Then just setting up initial protocols for the grant writing work, protocols, indicators, systems, This month, we've kind of had a soft launch, just flying a little under the radar before promoting too much. That's just connecting with stakeholders, nonprofits, and then he's helping me with community action grant applications this month. That round is open right now. And so thankfully he's sharing that load for me so I can keep working on many other things. And it also is bringing him up to speed on that work. And then, so coming up in this next month, we'll be getting Nick connected with municipalities, so all of your folks, and then just kind of continuing this work, supporting funding readiness, regional projects, monitoring progress. So, and I'll give Nick an opportunity just to kind of speak to a little bit of what he's seen and done. But,
well, I'll be brief, but like you said, we've been sort of rounding out this role and, you know, kind of getting it moving forward, I guess. Meeting a lot of people in the communities, a lot of nonprofits. It's been really nice meeting a lot of people in their communities and whatnot. So I'm kind of a remote position too, so I'm out a lot listening to people and talking and hearing what's going on. So it's been really awesome so far and rewarding, and I'm looking forward to, you know, working with you guys closer and seeing what I can do to help out. Sure. I'll give you guys my contact and stuff after if you guys.
We all intend to put you.
Yeah. Show us the money.
Freezer chair?
Was that it, Ray?
Not yet, but
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, so it's, once you get your, not tomorrow or anything, but is there a chance that you can come and meet our councils?
Yeah.
Because that'd be very important, but I also want you to be prepared and more into your job, so
Of course.
helps all the better, but see you.
Of course, yeah. I can't wait.
And I won't speak to us.
We'd like to get your feet on you before we go.
We're heavily interested in doing that writing, yes, and how that's gonna benefit us all municipalities, so I look forward to that. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, and then just update, some of you will have seen me or heard me talking about the Overcoming Poverty Together process. So this is the province's 5-year renewal and the poverty reduction plan. March, April has primarily been promoting regional participation in that. There's an online questionnaire. In terms of how I've promoted that, I sent an email out to 12 municipalities, just so to some of your folks in the offices early in March to promote. And then I've been kind of cycling some of that promotion on Facebook and connecting with partners, and I've made myself available for presentations. Done a few community dialogues, some mini dialogues with groups, probably not as many as I would have liked to have had time for. Saw Bonnie last week, and I was optimistic that I could show up for the community market, and then I talked to my wife, and that wasn't going to be happening. So
I even found your place to stay.
I know. But it's been really positive. E6 also held some focus groups, and then last week we had a pretty successful positive sectoral consultation. So that was sectoral, meaning engaging specifically with nonprofits, government, businesses. Few folks showed up, and I think hopefully you guys walked away positively. I think other partners did for sure. And I'll give you a few tidbits on what we're hearing so far. But I just wanted to make a note there. We did intentionally go a little lighter on engagement for this process because the CHNA had just happened. And with those 16 population groups that were targeted, you know, those are some of the folks that we would be hearing from as well. So we didn't want to just be over consulting community and keep asking them similar questions. And we will be integrating that CHNA knowledge into our regional work. And then the final plug, and I'll do it one more time, is the online questionnaire is still open until the 30th. So if you haven't had a chance to fill it out, please fill it out. I can provide that information later. So what we've heard so far, as far as Southwest New Brunswick participants, this just captures the online questionnaire. And there's about 230 people that have responded to it so far, which I think is actually pretty good for our regional participation. One of the questions here, and the number 176 is how many answered this particular question. But the perceived financial situation that the individuals who respond to this said that, I think you can look at that graph and it's about in thirds. A third of the respondents said that they're in good and excellent condition financially. A third said that it's average, and then a third said that their position is poor or terrible. So, and then again, my financial situation today, better than it was 2 years ago. Worse than it was 2 years ago, and that's roughly 40% of folks who responded to that question, and then about the same as it was 2 years ago. So this is just some of the information that's getting collected through that questionnaire. And then in terms of poverty reduction variables, I think these are the things that they're finding challenging or would be helpful. You can see access to affordable and safe housing is what most participants of the 217 noted. That would be important. And then the next highest one would be having some kind of guaranteed basic income would be helpful. The next highest specific one was access to affordable childcare, and so you start to get a picture of what respondents are saying is going to be important to increasing their social and economic inclusion. And then just in the context of the province at large, I think there's been over 3,000 respondents overall to date in the province, across the province on the questionnaire, and I'll just highlight the high ones there. So 27% in the bottom right is housing and affordability, accessibility. These are the barriers. And then again, access to and affordability of activities, so sports, recreation, leisure, access to transportation, 17%, and then 13% noted cost of living, taxes, finances. So again, overall across the province, 29% say their financial situation is worse than 2 years ago, and I should say across the province of the 3,000 people who responded, right? 29% situation is worse, and then 45% say poverty affects me and my family a lot or somewhat. So again, this is, it's painting a picture of what folks who are responding are experiencing, and it's important to note and to know. Again, across the province, what would have the biggest impact on reducing poverty? People are saying affordable and safe housing is number one. Guaranteed basic income, so income of some kind, and access to mental health and or addiction services. Those are the top three there. So that's just kind of a sample of some of the information that we'll be gleaning from that, and we'll get some from a regional level as well once the process is complete. So the collection of information where the public can participate ends at on the 30th, so next Tuesday I think it is, and then all the information across the province will be compiled, analyzed over the summer, and then the plan developed, and then the new plan, which kind of highlights the priority areas to focus on for the next 5 years, will be launched in 2025. So okay. And of course, I will provide more information on what our regional statistics are looking like when I can see them. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Ray.
Yeah. Paul, did you want me to give a little quick update on the transportation piece?
Yeah, 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. So just this is still on our radar. It's there. Spring, summer will be, as Paul said, we're getting those committees rolling. So we'll be setting up that advisory committee for the transportation work. So be in touch with me. I'm open to working with community members and serving transportation opportunities, having discussions. Currently, I'm working with the providers, the community transportation providers that are here, primarily Charlotte Valley Ride, Project Village Car Share, Future 60 Winds Pilot, and Carry. And I'm working with those guys, building collaboration between them, cooperation. They're going to be doing a CHCO special by the end of the month, and together we'll be sitting at the table together. It's just to kind of show that community collaboration. So stay tuned. That's all I'm going to say for transportation. Slowly working on that one. So.
Thanks, Rick. Any questions, comments? Longer than that. So I'm keeping a short track of you guys. Okay. Economic and workforce development, Charlene again.
Okay, so I just want to give a brief update on the business center that's coming up. So some of you know about it, some don't in terms of detail. So I'll just start by saying we're partnering with all three chambers within the region. Practical Human Resource Solutions, Holly Johnson PR, Working MB, OMB, and CBDC. That's our working committee. So the intent with this is to bring world-class learning and networking to the regional business community, but also to showcase the region to the rest of the province and the rest of Atlantic Canada as a place to hold these type of events. Just going to skip and show you the actual details. So it's happening 26, 27, 28 of June at the Algonquin. The agenda, we formed for feedback with the regional business community. So day one is a full day of workshops, morning and afternoon. We have a breakfast and lunch keynote speaker. There's 5 workshops for each time slot, so that there's something for everybody in each time slot, every type of business, size of business. The evening there's a networking event, a trade show. The trade show opens at noon day 1 until noon day 2. And there's live music and light fair that first evening. Day two, it's morning workshops, again 5 with the breakfast keynote. The afternoon, there's several different excursions that attendees can choose from: golf, spa, whale watching in Kingsbury. And there's an evening gala dinner with James Mellinger as the keynote. And day 3 is just the morning. There's a closing brunch with celebrity chef Michael Smith, and he's doing a keynote as well as a cooking demo. So it's a huge event. We'd love to get your help with spreading the word and getting all our local businesses signed up that can. Some of the speakers to highlight, as I mentioned, there's kind of something for everybody during each time slot. It's human resource management, leadership, immigration, accounting, digital marketing, productivity. So there's a little bit of everything. The website is southwestbusinesssummit.ca. So it's got everything on there that you need. In fact, we have CPHR, which is the governing body of HR in the province, is one of our sponsors, and they have approved over half of our speakers as CPD hours. It's their professional development hours for their designation. So that's a huge win. There's also an entrepreneur panel with several entrepreneurs, 4 of which are regional. One is Moncton area and was on Dragonston. And there's a funding panel with participation from BDC, ACOA, OMB, Working MB, and CBDC. We're also going to hand out regional awards. So we're putting these together now. So we're looking at these categories: solo entrepreneur, youth, newcomer, community spirit, and community culture or corporate culture. Probably the name of that. It's not necessarily companies. It could be nonprofits. It could be anything. So we're putting that together now, and more information will be good on that in a couple of weeks. We're going to do nominations, send them out through the business community as well as on social media. And this is a snapshot of our sponsors to date. We've got a few more we're waiting to hear back from, but we've got several companies and a few government organizations, and Working MB is helping us out with this one. So anyway, we're excited about the event. It's huge. It's going to be a great opportunity to showcase again the region and to showcase or to teach the regional business communities what they can access normally. So we're really excited about it. The second thing I wanted to talk about quickly is Envision St. John. And I want to talk about how we're working together with them. And I just want to talk about what they do versus what we do, because it is very, very similar. There's been some questions around whether they do local, whether they do regional, who does what. So I just want to kind of go through this. So this list of activities was taken from Envision's website. So these are their functions that they perform. So workforce development, entrepreneurship and business growth, economic intelligence, population growth, destination marketing and sales, and support real estate development. So we do all of those at different scale, right? Because obviously they're a much different size region than we are. So I want to just kind of dig into that for a moment, and I'll talk about the areas that we're collaborating right now. So Envision was established in 2021. We obviously, in 2023, which is our first fully funded year, they have the equivalent of 17 full-time staff. FTE is full-time equivalent. We have about three, myself, Sherry, a little bit of Xander, and then a little bit of a contract. And again, it's just to kind of show the level of work that's happening. How they function at their local level is the city of St. John is 60% of the St. John region. So 60% is a huge chunk, obviously. So they're paying the bulk of the bill for Envision. But they also, and St. John has their own dev staff. They have a whole team, and they have housing development staff. The main thing that I would say is different, and Sherry can correct me if I'm wrong. On the tourism side, Envision started their work mainly in tourism, and they do everything tourism for the region, including looking after the VICs, the visitor information centers, and all. Like they look after. That was their big thing. They do the sales, they do the marketing, they do tourism. From the dev side, we're in line with all the different activities. The population served, that's the difference in our size population, 135,000 to 29,000. And that's the difference in budgets. That was for 2022. I believe Envision is now up to almost 7 million. So you can see per capita, theirs is about $40 per person, ours is about 25. And that's tourism and ECDEV combined. So I just want to kind of throw a snapshot to say if there are other things that you know of that are happening or being delivered for services in that region, talk to us about what that could look like. But obviously it needs to be paid for. Thank you. No, it needs to be paid for. It's what I'm getting at. So the collaboration piece right now. In workforce development, we collaborate a lot on the youth side. The reason for that is, aside from Macadam, we share one school district. So all of St. John Region and ourselves are in ASD South. Macadam's and West. So we don't want to duplicate these services, obviously, and so we don't want to bust kids all around for one thing and the next, and that was happening prior to us kind of working together. So we do work together a fair amount on that. The healthcare promotion recruitment I spoke about earlier, I work with them on that as well, again, because it's economies of scale. They're so much bigger and have so many more resources. So it's like, how can we piggyback on what you're doing to kind of get the most out of what we're doing. And then anything else that needs to happen. So there are a couple of projects that were cross-regional that we didn't have the staff for here. We knew we didn't. So we said to them, look, like if you have ways to attract these staff, help us out. So they're really good that way. They're a great bunch to work with. On the economic development side, specifically real estate development, there's been some cross-regional projects there. We've been connected with them on the port RFP. And how that has worked as well is that's no different than here. If there is a large community asset that's considered regional, like a port or anything that's got large economic growth potential, we could help with an RFP or with any kind of contracting on that. So we have open lines of communication with the CEO, the directors of economic and workforce development, and Sherry also has open lines with their tourism staff. So I speak with them monthly at least. So if there's anything that you want to talk about collaboration wise, just let us know and we can work towards it. That's me.
Thanks very much, Charlie. Yep. Anybody have any questions, comments? That food worked. Tourism promotion, Sherry.
Thank you. So I have a lot of information to share with you today. I will speak very fast, but it's a lot of pictures. So pay attention to the screen. And I have a light pointer today.
Beautiful one to start out with.
There you go. Okay. So last time we met, you had given me the okay on our brand. Essentially what our new brand is going to be. Our tagline, our East Coast showing. You guys approved my 2024 marketing plan, and I've been off to the races. So a few things we're going to be going through very quickly. Quick update on web and visitor guide. Everything you see here today is not the final. It's going to be launched right away because I want to be a surprise. But you're going to have some insights into that because I'm getting a lot of questions from everybody on what that looks like. We're going to talk about some summer and fall campaigns, some partnerships that are in play, travel trade sales, and that's a new unplanned project for our division. And some site activations and events and promo. Let's go. Website. Here is just a quick teaser of what our web is going to look like. Our East Coastness is showing, again, promoting the region as the ideal East Coast destination that's closer than you think. ways that we can help people spend more than a couple days. If you recall, the goal was to get them to stay longer than a couple nights. I'm not going to show you all the pictures because it's going to be launched here soon. But essentially, each region you can see there, see what Southwest New Brunswick has to offer. Is my laser working? I'm going to find one. Once it's not activated. Yeah. Anyways, there's see what Southwest New Brunswick has to offer. So you can filter out by activity, by interest, by maybe you want to stay in a certain season, maybe you want to stay on an island, maybe you want to, you know, there's all sorts of fields we've pre-populated that you can sort and sift through to help. Then further add keep on some of that. Essentially, heart team, is it showing? You can heart and save it. So as you're filtering and you see stuff when you're exploring the site, you're going to add it to your save list. Okay, it's going to help move things over. So then you can email it to yourself. You can share it with a friend. Or the goal would be that we're working maybe with an agent that can help maybe line up some flights for these folks and whatnot. But the goal is that here we're acting as a direct sales lead to the supplier, the hotels, the tour operators, the restaurants, so that they can go right to their website and book it. So our goal, the way I describe it to everybody, with this website and everything that we do, is we're taking what Tourism New Brunswick is doing, is flagging, come to New Brunswick, it's amazing. And then I'm over here catching the ball and going, okay, Southwest New Brunswick is where you want to be. And then our different regions with their tourism leads, their DMOs are going, here, let me kind of get that and close the deal for you. So that is essentially how this website is going to act. We're going to have our following sections. So what's going on, that's going to be our regional events calendar that's been asked for. So at that point in time, you can see whether or not there's sets of events, farmers markets, live music at certain venues all across the region. Where to stay, we're going to be listing all of our paid roofed accommodations if they have an actual website. So Airbnbs, if they don't have an actual website, they won't go on here, but we're going to try and limit to everybody else who has an actual website. Guides and experiences, this is something that's going to roll out in phase 2 because I can't get it all done right now, but the opportunity is that we're working with local operators so that we can really make and curate their experience in the region that much more. So for example, I love bird watching and I want to do kayaking. Maybe we can work with different partners to bundle packages so that people can really just make that planning experience a lot easier for people. Explore the regions. I know you all want to see what's going to come. This is going to be where each region will have their own write-up page. Some of you have been emailed, a questionnaire giving me kind of your top 5. What's the best of the best? What's your hidden gems? What's the essence of your community? And we've worked really hard to kind of pull that together so that we can help people connect to it. We also have from the community here, this is where our Proud Brick Gallery is going to look like, and that is up and running now. So what this is doing is scraping all of the social networks of images from users on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter to create a gallery for us. Because if you recall, we really didn't have a lot of good digital assets that were on brand. So we're leveraging this Proud Brick platform to help us pull in that content so that we can then share it, further validate good positive experiences with the potential, the person who's sort of snooping around going, hey, I think I want to go here. This is a good tool that we're going to be using. Next up is the map feature. This is going to be phase 2. Again, it's going to be listing, this shows all the restaurants. It's not going to be restaurants, but it's going to be all of our attractions. It's going to be our trails. It's going to be all of our points of interest, our lighthouses, our wharves that you can go and visit to. Really helping people connect and explore to the region digitally. And then on phase 2, I don't know how to do it, I'm talking really fast. So phase 2 is going to be where we're moving into a little bit more about the sales aspect of it. So right now we're focusing on really just trying to help people get to, they've we've got on the radar, they're on our website, we're walking them through the journey to help them plan their trip, close the sale, get there. Next, eventually as staff resources are available, the goal would be that we're really leaning heavy into supporting event sales, travel trade, conference marketing, with just what Charlene's doing right now with the business summit, like helping to promote and elevate, that we're a great spot for that. Okay, I talked really fast. Any questions?
So you said the destinations, was it businesses included in that or no? Just the.
Right, so if it's a tourism-based business, yes, but if it's like a restaurant, some of those items we're not necessarily going to, we can't list absolutely every single one.
No, which I guess would there be a fee to be on?
Yeah, we need
I'm just thinking of like breweries are a touristy thing, right?
Yeah.
So that would be crossing the line maybe, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I think the goal would be that we still have to sort of explore that, because business chambers, the tourism associations, they're membership based. So if we're going to offer and promote them free of charge, and they're charging them, so we don't want to impede any of the other organizations.
I will say though that only 20% of the businesses in the region belong to chambers. Like we're trying to increase that because there are benefits to it, but we are working on a holistic list of businesses too.
Yeah.
For a database, so we might be a way of.
We're working on it, but I think to start off with, it might be good suggestions, right? So
I mean, I get you don't want to really water it down either, but I just that would be hard to, because there is things that do draw tourists too, so that are businesses, like you said.
Yes, yeah. So it's a fine line on what it is, and so we're exploring that, but we want to make it easy. If you want to pop in, but then there's communities where there are really only 3 restaurants that you can eat at. So, we want to promote them and support them, right? So, or the local producers and farmers, Kay's Blueberries and the smokers and whatnot, right? That too. So promote them, because it's kind of a unique experience of going up to.
Well, that's what we have,
right? Yes.
So okay.
When will phase 2 be online? I didn't hear your date.
I didn't hear the date.
I didn't.
Thanks. The goal is that we're getting our phase 1 launched here imminently, and the goal is that by end of May we have phase 2 online. So we're already
end of May this year. So.
Yes. No, I've been working on all the things. I'm showing you all the things. I just want you to know that this is going to be the initial launch and then kind of like the full launch. Because the goal is that we have that open and ready for what's called opening weekend, which is typically May long weekend. That's when a lot of the VICs are going to be opening up across the region, and we want our, I'm going to call them the ambassadors for the region who are working at those VICs to use this as a tool to help connect and share what there is to do across the region as well. So it's not just for us singularly on the web. We're hoping that it will be leveraged by the VICs as well as a tool. Visitor guide update. Again, don't read too close because it's like almost done, but we wanted to make this as a something that you're not just going to toss in your pocket or small enough that you forget about it. We want it to be looking like it is a beautiful magazine that you're going to want to hang on to it. Inside of it, we're going to have each of the regions. We've included a overview map, which sort of shows how long it takes to get between the different regions by car. Top things to do that we've identified across the region. And if you notice here, there's a QR code. So this QR code, you can scan it, go onto our website, and then pull up more information as you go through. Because when you're looking at the guide, this is what each region is going to look like. Again, so we have taking really more of a visual editorial look, so that this isn't something that you're going to want to necessarily throw out. It's really, really easy, but if you want more information on where to book all of your items, or maybe some of the best spots to eat, these are things where we can take it, relay it to the business chambers websites with their listings for all the places where you eat. So we're working and partnering with chambers. If they don't have one, we will have that information curated on our website on your regional profile. Grand Manan, for example, here we go. Again, it's not fully edited, so I won't read too much into it, but again, top items that make, you know, when you're visiting the islands, you want to do, Eastern Charlotte, and so on. So here's a sneak peek at all of your guys' regions here. In fact, so also not included in the screen here is that on the back side of the visitor guide will be all of our major festivals and events broken out by season. So if you're driving, you pick that up, it's on there, but there'll be a QR code again that you can scan that will take you to the what's going on. So if you want to be like, I'm in town, I wonder if there's any live music happening, you can scan that and it's going to take you there, connect you with it. Also on the back side of that page, there's going to be almost like a pocket folder. Within that, we're going to have this really large, almost, remember those maps that we used to have off in our glove box? Yes, we're going to have one of those. People are going to travel with pirates. We're going to have a whole region out there, and that's going to have, think of the fabulous visitor map that St. Andrews has right now, where it has the trails, all of the kind of points of interest for the tour to get to. It's going to be on our region, but each area blown out. You've folded up on the backside, again, another QR code if you need more visitor information. You get a flat tire and you're gonna get to somewhere. You can scan that again. We'll take you to where you need to go as a business director. And then on the back side, because the map might be good for some of the, there's just some people who just don't like to use tech. That's fine. Some people, like the families, might want to get it because on the back we're going to be building out almost like scavenger hunts or checklists for people to do as you're exploring the region. So we're really trying to promote and help people connect. Go to this museum, check out these waterfalls, go to this beach, check it off as you're going through. So just trying to really make it more interactive and memorable. And again, something that you can keep as a souvenir. You're not going to just chuck it away. Oh, and then we're also going to have stuff on the all of the operators. So you want to, I think you saw this section on the title page. We've got whales, right? So that I'm going to talk to you a little bit more at the end of the presentation. I don't know how much time I have left, Paul, as I can see you. He's fidgeting. Summer and fall campaigns are going out right anyway, like very, very soon, the summer campaign. We are fortunate enough to have gotten an opportunity to partner with Tourism New Brunswick for a co-investment campaign. And again, this is just us echoing that we really are the gateway for the quintessential location for your East Coast experience. So what do we need to do? What's our goal with this one? Core message, stay in Southwest New Brunswick 3 to 5 days. That's our starting goal, right? Travel perception. I need to go to Nova Scotia or PEI to get the full East Coast experience. No, we got it. So this is kind of the strategy behind it. How do we do that? Here's our summer campaign, grainy because it's blown up on a big sheet and it's not wild, but better add a couple days to tide you over. Beautiful imagery of little kids playing on the beach and the sound of hills. And then when you're able to read this, it's talking about the gorgeous trails and you're going to the beaches and you're camping under the stars while there's whales and puffins to watch. Golf courses to drive. Billboards, and then social media ad campaigns. For our fall campaign, core message is that some people might say, well, we don't have a lot of snow, and that, you know, depending on who you ask, there's always negative. Well, I think one of the positives is we have really long, beautiful extended summers. They're not falls. They're extended summers. And everybody plays up on the beautiful fall colors. So what do we have? Well, I didn't know that there's still summer activities out there to do. People from prairies who might be hitting late September, early October. It's snowing there already. Not us, we're good. So get colors from Southwest by the fall, showing all the summer activities you can do. And again, these are all the great things you can do. So again, interest-based. It's not just beautiful imagery, it's interest-based, it's getting people to be able to picture themselves there. Paid media partnerships, we have scheduled that up with various channels to cover various things. Again, because we're marketing directly to the consumer, but then our paid media partnerships is where they're helping to amplify our message. and we need to lean on that. So we've partnered in a number of ways with either social media influencers, travel writers, bloggers, Tourism New Brunswick. There's more, but essentially the goal is, number one, trying to get our money to stretch farther. So working with people who have a large audience. And then number two, obtain new digital assets aligned with the new brand image. Because if you recall, we just didn't really have a lot of our region. There was some huge gaps. So these partnerships that are in play, these are the gaps we've identified where I have no assets at all. We have no coverage on it. There's no exposure, but we need to get it in place. So the investment this year is to focus on the gaps, as well as elevate a lot of the existing great things that are already getting some coverage, like our festivals and events, just take it to the next level with these partnerships. Travel trade, the media market is an unplanned project that we are now looking after with the passing of Susan Hill. She was going to be our travel trade specialist for us as I worked through getting the division built and everything off the ground. And what that is really, if you're looking on a website and you're booking a trip to the Dominican, or maybe over to Europe, and there's like a 10-day tour and you're touring Italy, for example. This is the same thing, but it's for the UK customers to come over here to tour Atlantic Canada. Okay, so this is really important. This is your international supply chain, and it's important because right now, what's happening, everybody's going into Nova Scotia, flying to Halifax, doing a lot of things, and they're hitting, you know, Hopewell Rocks, Moncton. We're getting a little bit of traction in St. Andrews, okay, but we're not on everybody's radar. And the goal is to really get Atlantic on the Atlantic Canadian circuit. And how we do that is by, these are the reasons why I've been running out of time though, is that we act like the matchmaker at trade shows between the buyer and the supplier. So the buyers, those tour companies that put the packages together to sell to the person over in the UK. The suppliers, those are like the hotel people and the whale watching operators. And I'm matchmaking and selling the whole region, going, you want to add Southwest to the region as part of your Atlantic tour because they have typically high net worth travelers. They're in there to invest, and they will fulfill the supply chain for the shoulder seasons. So there's the type of travelers that are going to come in the shoulder season. So if you guys recall, one of our goals was find a way to get people to come in the shoulder season constantly. Well, these types of travelers do. They do come through there. It's going to help increase the economic success of all of the businesses in the region. And the good thing is I'm just matchmaking, and then those buyers, they're the ones marketing it for us to the people. So we basically, it's a very good strategic investment. Big learning curve for me on this over the last little while, but it is going to be, I can't wait to go through it. So it's going to be really, really good because Tourism New Brunswick, the Charlotte coastal region, as you would call it, or the new Southwest New Brunswick, this is what we're trying to rebrand with them, okay? We play whale watching is like their number one, that's what they sell for the whole region. So there's Hopewell Rocks, whale watching, and kind of the Fundy Isles and the ocean. That's like the whole thing. So we're an important partner and we're an important piece of the provincial landscape for international sales. And so we want to be, again, building those strong partnerships so that we can work together with them. And so this is why we went to Toronto on March 15th as part of an experiential event with Tourism New Brunswick, Envision, St. John, Fredericton, Moncton. We were the only true region, and Miramichi was there. To elevate our new message of we are the complete East Coast experience. Hall alluded to it last time, so there's a picture. Here's the full pictures of the display. This was a touch, taste, smell of Southwest New Brunswick. So this video here was actually looped with whale watching videos and whales from the Bay of Fundy, where we worked with the Waterway Commission on that. And then audio wise, you could hear whale sounds in the background, or the sounds of the boats, or you could hear the sounds of the Bay of Fundy. With our touch table, Harvey. I've got your lighthouse cutout there, people to take pictures with, the puffins, and again, a beautiful backdrop of New River Beach. So really just sort of showing some of the great things within our region to get people. We had some taste, we had some generous donations from some local suppliers, and some recipe cards to learn how to cook with it. So again, just getting people excited about it. And what this was good to do was to really talk to people about educating them about all the great things we had. And they were like, we didn't even know you can do whale watching in New Brunswick. They didn't even know that, right? So it was like, okay, we're on the right path. We're doing good things. Let's elevate that image. And so it was really good connecting with these people, because they were the ones that would be coming. There was the public. It wasn't like another buyer event. So all the questions that they were asking me as I was validating it with our visitor guide. Okay, we're on the right spot. Like we're, all the questions that they were asking. So there was that. I think the value in that. And then we also had some generous donations from Lambert Whale Watching and Salty Dogs Kayaking and a few other businesses throughout the region to give away a trip to Southwest New Brunswick. So that was an email. They just had to scan a QR code, load it up. Okay. So anyways, picture yourself here. These are going to be used at all the future sandcastle competitions, festivals, and events, and you might see some of the banners coming up. Thanks, so close. Anyway, thank you.
I know you're running out of time, but I do want to share an experience I had just this week with my work companions that were from Central Ontario. I and the Atlantic conferences, we were all here. So I did some tour guiding myself, which made me see things as well. So we don't realize when you're living here, you come notifying what we have. But when I'm like, two of these people from Ontario have never been to the East Coast, and it was so good. Like I went to Five Kings restaurant, the brewery, Chocolatier, in our museum, St. Andrew's Brew Pub, William on Water for dinner. Again, like we did a lot of eating, but when you watch them look at the salt water, and then they're looking across the sea in the American side there too, and all that, it was a good experience to see. So we get a lot of salt. So I can see your excitement in it, and it's really good. So I'm surprised to see it through their eyes.
Thank you very much. Mark, you're still there?
I'm still here.
Mark,
I don't know if the speaker's working well or not.
We can hear you. We'll get you to do your financial update now.
Okay. Which one are we going to talk about? The annual financial statements, or for the first 3 months of 2024?
First 3 months.
Okay.
First.
All right.
Next one in the next meeting.
All right. Not too much to talk about here. I just go through the first page of this is the summary income statement. So our year-to-date numbers for solid waste are 97,000 for a surplus. Local planning's 10,000, and that's right in line because more of the costs are incurred over the summer. Regional tourism promotion has a surplus of 34,433, and that's high because we took the 80,000 out of the reserve fund already. Economic development's got a surplus 7,958. Community development 2,250. 1,092 deficit in regional transportation. Public safety's got a surplus of 804, and regional sport, rec, and culture infrastructure support and development has a surplus of 4,207. And I skipped over the $1 deficit for cooperative and regional planning. I guess that wasn't very significant. So if anybody's got any questions, the detailed pages are all down in the next few sections. I don't think there's anything extraordinary other than we're spending lots of money and getting lots of money in from the government.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, comments for Mark? I was short and sweet, Mark.
Well, I know you guys want to go home, so.
Did we want to go over the annual report at this point? Because I know we don't vote on it until the next meeting to approve the budget or the auditor's report. Was there anything else under the auditor's report that we needed to go over before the next meeting? I don't think so. I think we covered that pretty well. So we won't do that until the next one. Okay. The next, there's no other items on the agenda. Is there anything that anybody wanted to bring up? Okay.
Really quick, I really appreciated the updates that we just had on all the different projects. I think it was really helpful to get that overview. And if we could do it like a couple times a year, I think that would be really great, just so we know what is going on in each file. I just thought it was really helpful.
Yep. Good point. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. The upcoming meetings, the next one is Committee of the Whole on May the 9th. And that'll be back in St. Stephen. And then the board meeting is on the 23rd of May. Both of those start at 5:30 out. You catch that?
I hear you.
Okay.
I hope no one else.
Okay. Any questions from the public?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll take it up. If somebody would make a motion for the adjournment. Thanks, John. Thank you very much. Let's take a 5-minute personal break, and then we'll come back for the this annual meeting.
For real?
I picked on you, Al, but I should have mentioned Brad.
Oh, now we're up there.
He's not here tonight, so.
I was gonna pick on Brad.
Can't catch you.
I'm here, Brad's place. You didn't give me any notes to do.
No.
Right after 7, so.
Yeah, we're gonna change
Yeah. He's going in right now.
Going in? Yeah, you gotta need to get it up.
No, that's very good.
Okay.
There's a little. Okay. Again, thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight. This is going to be our annual general meeting. So we're going to bring that meeting to order at this point. We do have a declaration of quorum. Rick, just trying to keep us awake.
Great.
Thank you. Are there any conflict of interest declarations that need to be made? Take that as a no. Adoption of the agenda. If you all had a chance to look at the agenda.
I think that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, and a secondary to that. I saw Kate hand down there. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So the adoption of the minutes of the annual general meeting from last year in 2023. If you all had a chance to review that, no comments or questions, on that same move.
Adopt the events from 2023.
Okay, John, seconder.
I'll second.
Okay, Harvey, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Chairperson's report, you probably all had a chance to read it, so I'm not gonna read what you've already read, but I would like to bring up just a few highlights. As I was reading through this, and Hollis really put it together for he and I, but as I was reading through it, it was quite striking. It's been a heck of a year. We've accomplished an awful lot during this past year. This board went from many to a few, down to 8 people. We were given a whole host of new responsibilities by the province that we were to take on. We developed frameworks for that, vision for the future in those. We started putting legs on all of those items that we were just briefed on in the previous meeting. We have staff that are second to none. They have been working through all of this, helping us, guiding us to get us through all that. The board, I can't speak highly enough of all the board members this past year. We have felt free to express ourselves in a safe environment. There is no retribution, and I certainly appreciate everyone's willingness to chime in and be a part of the whole. That's worked out really well. Some of the other things, one of the things, you know, I look back at this firefighting piece of equipment that it's not really firefighting. What is an emergency response to a fire vehicle? I don't know. We won't name the terminology on it, but
Mad Max.
Mad Max vehicle. It has already proven its worth. I can remember the discussions that we had around that. And we had a lot of fun with that. It was interesting, and we came together at the end of it, and Denny here, he loves the thing. He wants a second one now that he's had. The gas collection system that we enlarged upon, so that we are decreasing our carbon footprint. Things like that. I thought that was really good. Another thing that really came about was I took it for granted in McAdam because the building inspector here was doing unsightly and dangerous premises for my community. And we took our community, we had 25 houses that we had identified, and we've gotten rid of 23 of them over the last several years. And I was so pleased to see that service now being offered to other municipalities within the region. And I know they're already experiencing success with that. And that's all part of being a region and learning from one another and making it all work together. So I was really glad to see that was starting to work out really well for your area there, John. And I believe they're doing it as well for you, Benny. So all in all, to me, it's been a pretty fantastic year. We've had a great time working together. We've accomplished a lot. And so thank you to everybody here around this table and the staff who help us make this operation all work. So thank you.
Comment?
Yeah.
Just want to say thank you to you, Ken. You've done an excellent job this past year, and it was very fortunate to have you now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. We did have a briefing from the auditor and Mark on the audited draft 2023 financial statement. So we need to have a motion from the board in order to accept that audited draft of the financial statements. So if I could have someone move that.
I would move that we accept the audited report for 2023.
Okay, Jim, thank you. Second. Al. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. The other next thing we have is a selection of auditors, and are we to continue with oh my gosh, the name. Yeah, I haven't written that. Keith Saunders Doyle. And if you so wish, we can someone could make that motion that we appoint the Keith Saunders Doyle as the auditors for next year. Okay. A seconder? Okay. And then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. The next item is statements of disclosure, and really we don't have anybody new that needs to fill out a statement of disclosure, but I just want to remind everyone if there's something that comes up in your business life or your personal life that may bring up a conflict of interest that you need to have a statement of disclosure made for, just reminding everybody to put that forward. The next item is the election of board officers. And before I hand this over to Hollis, I just want to let everyone know that I'm stepping down as the chair this year because I've been doing this now for, I don't know, it must be 4 or 5 years. And well, yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been really good. I've had a lot of fun with it. And you guys are the people that make it fun. I mean, it's we all work together well, and so I really appreciated having the opportunity to work with you in this capacity. But I think it's time that somebody else stepped in with a different vision, perhaps, or an updated vision, a little more energy maybe than I've got. So I'm going to try and step away. And with that,
did you say try?
No, I'm stepping away.
I mean, on that, I'd like a just quick comment though. I just appreciate your style and your broad thinking and you do think of all our communities and you're a great listener and great provider of leadership. So I'm going to keep you on that try in a little bit, but so I appreciate what you've done.
And I echo what Al and John said earlier, that as a new mayor, my first year of being on the board, that you really made it a pretty smooth transition. I liked everything that you've done and appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I guess I'll hold you to try too, but I've already asked you.
Mr. Chair, I've been here for 28 years, and honestly, this is the most well-functioned this has been in all my years here. And I really I do feel that the smaller board seems to be, I guess maybe is speaking of staff maybe, but it's a little more manageable and that they work together really, really well. And I really it's made our jobs easier at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you want to drive in the fire?
So you guys, I want to touch on. I want to continue what you're saying. There is when they say they're doing their job easier, that means they're more efficient and they're running better too, and they're doing stuff that we require them to do. So that's very important to hear that from staff as well. So, and I mean that's to do with the board, including the chair.
I was here in the Danny and Daryl times, and not much get done except for the Danny and Daryl times. I really enjoy seeing it.
I'm just going to can't check.
No, I really do find you're very functional, and I love to I read the minutes and I watch the video, and it just flows really well. So you're the viewer that we have.
Yeah, I'm not here, I'm always a viewer. But I just want to echo everybody else's comments. I think the smaller board has helped. I certainly feel like I know all of you a lot better than I did a year ago, for good and for bad. But I think a lot of that does have to do with Ken's leadership style. Like I told you when you were on Graham and I think I said it at a board meeting after. I really appreciate having the opportunity just to have the conversation in the room that stays in the room, that maybe isn't about actual RSC business, but it just having that opportunity. I think that for me has been very helpful to know that some of the things that we're experiencing, it's not just our community, but it's everybody else, and have that opportunity to talk about it. So
You're here.
I'm hoping you still are on try. I'm putting my effort there too.
I'm gonna hand it over to Hollis. You can handle the rest of it.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
So at this point of the election, I just for those that don't know, I take over the chairing of the meeting from this point forward until we actually have a new chair, and the new chair will close the meeting. And my comments echo everybody else. I'm glad for you, Ken, and all the rest of the board members here. I'd be happy to have anybody here as chair, to be honest with you. But it's been a trying year for all of us. And I've had it's been overwhelming at times, all the stuff we've had to go through, and it would have been a lot more difficult if this wasn't this group. I don't know if we would have got to the point where we are. I don't think we would have. So, thank you all. Thank you all. So at this point, I'm going to call for nomination chair. And I'm going to make this call 3 times. So I'm calling for the nomination of chair.
I'll nominate Mayor Morse. I'm not even gonna try it. I'm not gonna pressure him. I'll pressure Mayor Morse before I'll pressure him.
You need a seconder?
I don't need a seconder, but I do need Bonnie to accept the nomination.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if that's an evil look or.
That was my angry guys yet, but you hang on.
How do you maybe do
it? Yeah.
Okay. You can also nominate yourself. You don't have to be just as a member. So we'll make the second.
I'd like to nominate John Craig.
Okay. John, do you accept the nomination?
Like Bonnie too. I'll accept it.
Okay. So third and final call, nominations for chair. Hearing none, I'm going to declare nominations closed, and we're going to have a closed ballot vote. Luckily everybody's here in person, so I don't have to do an online thing.
The 2 nominated people are gonna sell it, or I'd say like
sure. I agree with Al. If you'd like a couple of minutes to state your piece, then go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Put me on the spot here.
I guess,
No,
I just, I'm torn.
yeah, I'm torn about accepting. I don't know if you want to go first, and I think you can hear that because I struggle to attend in person, which is no secret. But I do think that there is a perspective. I think I have a bit of a different perspective just based on where I'm from. And I think that sometimes that's not a bad thing to bring to the table. Where you working there.
I like that. I like what you're saying now. Yeah.
I think that there is a lot of potential. I agree with the concept of working regionally, but my struggle has always been how my community fits in. And I think that that's really what I think. What I see, the next steps being is how do we move beyond sort of the more urban, I'll say in quotation marks, areas that we have in this region, and how do we expand that out into some of the more isolated, remote places that we do have that have a lot of potential, but maybe aren't as represented all the time at the table.
The one thing I would say is that I would like to continue on, if I did, is continue on with what Ken has done, and try to do as good a job as him. There's gonna be tough shoes to fill, but I have to work closely with Howell. Howell will be my person that I have to be all the time contacting you and picking your brain and help me guide me through it, because it's gonna take a lot of extra time, and anybody's part to be able to do that, to do a good job. And I think I have a close relationship now with my CEO. He and I work hand in hand, and we talk probably 7 days a week. I'm not trying to scare you. But that relationship has to continue with what Ken already done with you. You guys working closely together. The only way it's gonna work is I have to work closely with yourself and of course the rest of the board, but no problems.
Who's voting the? Yeah. Okay.
I'm not secretary.
I voted.
I think he's the big part of
That's a politician.
Always work, both sides.
That's the Ken Powell way.
Where's the thing?
You guys make it hard.
What now?
You guys make it.
You went to the store, like too late now. Ken would say, oh,
No.
yeah, let's see who did it for Ken.
I appreciate you both stepping up. It's important.
And especially gonna happen to me, nobody will be sleeping up.
And Ken's not going.
No, I'm sure. I'm hanging in there.
Hats off to either one of you two to take this on. Like I sit back and I personally would enjoy doing that role and stepping up, but I just don't have the time. And I don't even know how you guys are gonna pull that out.
It's gonna take a lot. Take a lot of hold.
Yeah.
Hey, we have the results. The election. And I declare Bonnie Morse as chair of CTEC.
Your face when you first get nominated is like, like you were thinking very fast. Like,
Not fast enough. Thank you, everybody. I do appreciate that. So I've got big shoes to fill and we'll go from there.
You'll be fine.
I'm expecting a lot of help from everybody at the table.
yes.
So I'm going to call for nominations for vice chair. So anybody wants to nominate for vice chair?
I nominate Ken Stevens.
Who's the vice chair? We could have John as John as vice chair.
Well, I guess you can, yeah, okay.
We could just leave him as vice chair.
Ken could also be a member.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just think just keep you tied. Yeah. So after I was thinking, that's what he gets.
You want to thanks, I really don't. Yeah. Keep the meeting going.
Second call for nominations for vice chair.
I nominate John.
We already did that.
I thought you wanted to nominate.
No, I did. I nominated Ken, just keep him tied to it.
Okay.
Third call for nominations for vice chair. Hearing none, I declare John Craig vice chair by acclamation.
Thank you, John.
And finally, I am looking for nominations for member at large. So this is the third part of the executive that serves as backup for chair and vice chair. And we had a little bit of a discussion previously that it's, I'm not going to go there. So I'm looking for nominations for member at large.
I'll nominate Jim. You already did that, but that's good.
Second call for nominations for member at large. Third call for nominations. Hearing none, I declare Jim Tubbs our member at large.
Congratulations.
close the election, and at this point, I'm gonna turn the meeting over to our chair, more so, please.
No present.
All right, so then I guess the next thing is, Q&A with the public. Anything in there?
Typically what happens is we sometimes get email, but I have none.
Okay. So I guess with that, we would be adjourning. If I can ready to jump in here. Yep.
I'll move with adjourn. Oh, somebody else does it up there. Okay, well done.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.